Kia ora. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about Te Ūkaipō Māori Club. It is a Māori culture group, a community-based, volunteer-led organisation here in the Newcastle area that I live. And I've been involved for over 10 years. The organisation's been around for over 10 years. I'm the current president. Before that, I was secretary, president before that, and vice president before that. So I've been on the pie, been on the committee for a long time. We've just had our AGM last weekend. There were so many exciting things to come out of that, and I felt compelled to make a video and share with you a little bit about the club, who's involved, what we do, what we don't do, where we're going, all those sorts of things, because I really haven't shared, if you've been following me for a long time, haven't really shared a lot of insights about the group, about the organisation, my involvement, my whānau's involvement. I have shared tidbits and usually share stuff from our club social media page. But in this video, if you've stayed now for over a minute, please hang around. I'm sure you'll find it interesting, at least if you're involved in community organisations, if you're a volunteer or involved in volunteer organisations. You probably get something out of this that you might be able to take away, because we've done a lot in the last 18 months, 24 months that has really increased the awesomeness of our group. I'm a bit stuck for words, sorry. So I'm going to share with you some thoughts around that. So we are an incorporated association. Sorry, I had to think about that one. We're an incorporated association under the New South Wales Fair Trading. So we're a rigididge, a dinky-die organisation. We're our own separate entity. We carry our own insurances. We have a formal committee. We have obligations that we meet every year, statutory obligations we meet every year. We have a constitution. We have all that sort of stuff. And you can start an organisation without any of that. The baseline thing to start an organisation, you need things to organise, and usually it's people. You need to try and bring them together. So you can start something without it, without all that sort of stuff in place. But if you want to go out and be involved in the community, if you want to interact with the public, if you want to hire venues, perform at venues, all that sort of stuff, go to schools, you pretty much need to be your own entity and becoming an incorporated association. Or there's similar terms all across the globe for these types of organisations. You basically need to be one of those, and you need to get your insurances. They're the two basic things that you need to operate a group like this. We are not the first Māori culture group in this area. There have been many that have come before, come and gone, and some are dormant. So we're kind of a continuation of those groups that have come before us. And a lot of those people are still in the community, they're still around. They may not necessarily be involved in our group, but I know who they are, they know who I am. We all know each other, everyone gets along fantastic. And I'd love to see more of the community come and get involved. There's time pressures, there's social pressures, there's all sorts of stuff. But we're at least engaged. We're at least engaged with a lot of the Māori community here in Newcastle, and that makes me happy. I run into people that aren't members of our group, and becoming a member means you pay your fees, you've got obligations under our code of conduct and our constitution. Like, you become a member. You have to sign up to become a member, and for some people, it's just too much. But I see people, and it's generally the first thing that they'll ask is, how's the club going? What are you guys up to? I saw you guys on Facebook. I saw your videos. I saw you performing here. Saw you performing there. Man, you guys are looking awesome. So to have that tautoko, that level of support from the broader community, is very, very pleasing to me. What's it like to run a community-based, volunteer-led organisation? We are nearly at 100 registered members, including adults, kids, over 18s, under 18s. That's how we split our membership up. We're nearly at over 100 members. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, we were less than half of that. So our membership base has grown, which which carries its own challenges. And in the role that I'm in, I've had to spend a lot of time trying to focus on that aspect of running the organization. I joined the organization, I joined the club to connect with culture. I think I probably had some cultural identity insecurities in my early 20s. A lot of that is very common for, I think, Māori born in Australia, growing up in Australia, and I'd say none of those insecurities exist anymore. But that's where I started, and then I've always had an interest in organisation and that side of things, and so it was kind of a natural progression for me to get involved, and I'm sort of sitting in this position where I am now. And what that means for my own personal involvement means I regularly need to try and distance myself from the cultural activities, just because I've got limited time, I've got finite time, and there's so much to do on the organizational side of things, and that's basically where all my focus needs to be. Having been involved with our hakaropu for a long time, having sat on our pai and spoken in many different situations, I do hold a level of, I guess, mātauranga that allows me to step in and step out if I need to, if and when I need to. But really my focus is on trying to run the organisation and managing the people. It's the hardest part of any organisation. I'm in my day job, I'm a project manager, so I'm involved with a lot of people, a lot of organisation, and so that probably really helps being involved in the president role and looking at how do we best run this club. So for me, as the president of the club, there's really three key priorities that I have my focus on. One is governance, two is organisation, and three is people. Third, certainly not last but not least. So governance, organisation, and people. Now, from a governance perspective, what we've done, governance/organisation, what we've done in the last couple of years is identified that trying to run everything just through a single committee is not working. Like, we needed better structure to the group. We needed to make sure if we do change the structure that we have the right governance in place. And so what we did a couple of years ago now, maybe 18 months ago, we created 3 separate subcommittees to run what we were already doing. So in this broader picture of trying to restructure the group, so we could handle our growth. That's the challenge. You grow via, it's all volunteer led. People have aspirations, and through those aspirations, you make commitments to doing things, and the workload increases, the level of commitment increases, but not necessarily the resources that you have available to do those things, and that's where a lot of clubs burn out. So that's been a really big focus of mine. How do we have the right structure in place so that we can grow, so that we can do different things, so that we can scale up in a sustainable way, in a way that doesn't burn people out? So one of the things that we did was created 3 separate subcommittees, and to run those subcommittees, we aligned the subcommittees with what we were already doing as a club. So we created 3 separate subcommittees: a cultural subcommittee, a welfare subcommittee, and a social subcommittee. So we were doing lots of social stuff. We were doing lots of welfare stuff. We had some external stakeholders that were involved in the welfare space that we were engaging with in a sort of an informal manner. So that tied into the welfare, and obviously the culture stuff is 80% of what we do sits within that cultural subcommittee. So that's very important. It's a very large part of what we do. So we created the 3 subcommittees. There's chairs in each of those subcommittees. We've then set the structure up. So anything that we do, programs, anything that we run for people, that has to happen under the subcommittees. The subcommittees are responsible for all of that. And the committee, the main committee, our committee members, our president, our vice president, secretary, treasurer, they all focus on the governance side of things. So there's a level of separation. There's some crossover in, sometimes you just got to get in and get stuff done. You got to do certain things. So there's a little bit of crossover there, but the idea is that we're sort of separating what we're doing from the governance side of things. We also created a number of supporting roles which support the committee and support each of the subcommittees. And so from that sort of perspective, it's a little bit of in organisational speak, it's a little bit of a matrix structure where we kind of had the subcommittees as the columns, and then we have the supporting roles along the side there as the rows, and then they'll sort of feed up into our main committee. So that's how our organisation exists at the moment. We have recently, at our AGM, we included a special general meeting, so we adopted some changes to our constitution. Our changes better reflected what we do as a club and who we are as an organisation. We had for a long time adopted what's called a model constitution. So New South Wales Fair Trading, they're responsible for administrating. They're the regulator essentially for incorporated associations. So we use the standard one that they put out and that every club can use. So we've modified that. We've made some changes. Talks a little bit more about who we are, what we do. We introduce into that document, or at least referenced in that document, a code of conduct, which we hadn't had before. So now we've got more of a mechanism around providing some constraints around our members, around behaviour, around tikanga, all that sort of stuff that was always implied. That's not to say we're now pulling out the stick and telling you what you need to do. A lot of the stuff we do anyway, but it just gives us something to lean into, and it's something that consistently we can roll out to and educate new members and people that are coming into the organisation. So that's one of the changes, and we adopted some new policies. One thing that we haven't done and has been well overdue is look more closely at the child protection space. So we've adopted a new risk management plan. We've adopted a new child protection plan, and we've got some risk assessment to do in that space to get it rolled out and to get it implemented properly. One of the bare minimums that will not change in that process is the need for volunteers and people that are interacting with kids to have working with children's checks. Now, that it almost goes without saying, but it's just something we hadn't had as a requirement for a long time. So we're going to now have that in place, which is going to provide that sort of baseline level of risk mitigation in that space, and there'll be more that we build out on top of that, but that's the starting point. And one thing that I mentioned to the people in our group is we're kind of like a sports club, but I like to try and think, what would a sports club do? One of the things that we don't have that sports clubs have generally is a governing body. So sports, and I'm involved with, I've been a coach in a couple of different sports clubs. Sports clubs themselves generally have a governing body, and the governing body does the governance. It does a lot of the governance, pushes it down to the clubs and says, hey, this is all the governance stuff we've got set up. You need to roll this out. We don't have that luxury in a sense. So we've kind of got to build the governance that a lot of the sports clubs take for granted through the governing bodies. We've kind of got to build that ourselves, plus implement what the sports clubs would normally implement. So that's a challenge for us. It means we've got to learn a lot more. It means we need talented people involved. We need people that understand that space involved. We've got some new people on recently in our committee, which I'm very, very excited about, which they're very, very experienced in this space. So we are just going to do this. That's my hope anyway. So that's governance, that's organisation, and then people. There's two types of people. There's our members that come along. They're involved in the programs we run. They're involved in haka. They're there to learn. Most of our members are there to learn. They're looking to be part of our club, to learn more about their identity, to learn more about who they are as a Māori, learn about Māori culture. There's our members, and then there's two, our volunteers, people like myself, people that actually put their hand up and say, hey, yes, I want to be a volunteer, I want to be involved, I want to help, I want to contribute, I want to organise things, I want to take on some responsibility. So managing, there's two types of people to manage. There's the members, and then there's the people that do, the volunteers, people that sit on the pay, on the committee, that sort of stuff. There's a balance between those. For a long time, we had sort of pushed this idea that people that are coming along, our regulars, we want you to get involved and be involved as volunteers and be on the committee, which I think is a great idea. The challenge that is unique to a culture group is that people that live here, that are born here or have been here for a long time, they come to our group because they want to learn about their culture. They want to learn a language that they've never spoken before. They want to learn how to do haka. They want to learn performing arts, and they may have never done that before. They want to learn how to do all that quite rhythmically with a whole bunch of people at the same time. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of practice, and a lot of practice outside of our regular practice. You've got to be doing this at home. So the challenge in finding people to come and volunteer is that there is such a burden, it's a positive burden, such a workload though, for them to come and learn about culture. There's very little time to then volunteer what very little time they have left to come and be part of the committee and do that sort of stuff. So that has been a challenge for a long, long time. And it's meant that some people have left because they've been too burnt out for trying to do both roles. It's meant that we've lacked the right people in the committee and in the volunteer roles because they don't want to jump over. They want to focus on just being there to learn. And then we've lost people that are there to learn, but they're like, you're not giving me more. I've got nothing else to learn from this group. And that comes back to, we haven't had the volunteers there, we haven't had the committee there to help in that space to, hey, how do we keep this fresh? How do we keep it renewed? How do we bring out new offerings, all that sort of stuff? So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. And in my mind, that's been a really big focus on how do we address that? I kind of look at the view that I'm the president, buck stops with me, I'm responsible for everything. But how do we get that balance right? So for me, that's been a really big push. We've just had our AGM. We've got some really, really great, talented, experienced people on board that are so keen to commit to the volunteer roles and the committee roles, and they are not super bogged down in wanting to be part of our programs and our haka and the learning piece, which is really, really, like I said, burdensome in a positive sense, but leaves you with no extra time. So we've got some really, really cool people involved. I'll share a little bit more about that because I'm going to jump over to what we achieved this year. Now, in terms of people and organising people, one of the biggest focuses for me has been digitisation. For too long, we had run along with trying to organize stuff in manila folders and on paper and personal emails and spreadsheets that get lost and all that sort of stuff. So I'm mindful that a positive digitization or digitization of what we do will bring a more positive and a more efficient user experience for our members and for our volunteers. For our members, digitization means that they can manage their own involvement with the club via a member portal, like similar to when you sign up to sport, you sign up to soccer, sign up to footy, you've got to go on the page, log in, takes you up to the governing body's website, you get to So we've built all that. We've built all that in the last 12 months, which I'm super, super proud of. And for our volunteers, it means that we collate all of our organizational information, which has been a struggle before. We've ran on Google Drive before, and that gets messy. So we've got a couple of different tools in place now to help manage all of that. And we've done that in the last sort of 18 months. So there's three main things that we have now, or four, sorry. We picked up an NFP license with Microsoft for, I think, 25 Microsoft accounts. That includes Outlook, Word, Excel, SharePoint, all that sort of stuff, which is awesome because they're not cheap. So we've picked up those through an NFP offering via Microsoft. We have an NFP subscription now, which is pre-subscription to software called Monday.com, it's like a virtual whiteboard. It's team integration. It's so good. It's so good for managing what we do and keeping stuff organized, and it's great. Everyone has TeamView. You get it on your phone, you get notifications. It's fantastic. The Microsoft stuff has given us the email registration. That's the main thing we're using at the moment, plus some of the Outlook products that people have been able to utilize. The third one is we registered a new domain, so 𝐿𝐿.com.au. That's now registered with our Microsoft account, so everyone that's a volunteer now has their own email address. It gives us a great external presence because we've got a nice formal email. Mine's president@𝐿𝐿.com.au. And because we've got role-based emails, what that also means is when someone steps out of those roles, we can just change the login details, give that to the next person. Say when I move on as president, the incoming president, they'll get the login credentials and they'll get all of my emails that I've ever sent, that I've ever received. So the transfer of knowledge between the roles, between the people that are coming in, that's going to be fantastic. And we've just had a changing of the guard in a number of roles, and so that passing on of historical communications is going to be really beneficial. And the fourth one, probably the biggest one, is we've now adopted software called Club Express. Now, Club Express is an American piece of software run by an Australian guy, and it is set up for incorporated associations, volunteer organizations across the globe. It's relatively cheap. It's a relatively cheap subscription and definitely affordable for our group. It has two key functions. Number one, gives you a website. Tick, we've never had a website. We've now got the domain that we purchased connected to that website. So now our website is www.ūkaipō.com.au. You beauty. And on the back end is the membership portal that I spoke about earlier. So you click on the website, it says member login, you click there, you log in, you now see your profile, you can manage everything to do with your profile and your involvement with the club. There's so many add-ons with communications and setting up events and payments and all that sort of stuff. It's a little bit of a learning curve for our members. It's that change management piece of what people are used to, which is, my membership's due, I'll just turn up to the next meeting with $50, here, someone take it, versus now it's like, hang on, no, your membership is managed online in the portal, you've got to click in, renew, pay through that, which I'm comfortable that people can do that, because you need to do that in just about any membership that you're involved in. So I don't think it's a learning curve. It's more around just changing that perception of who we are as a group, and how those people actually interact with our group. So that's been the digital uplift of our group has been phenomenal in the last 18 months from where we were. That it's done this for our group, and there's been challenges along the way, but yeah, overall it's been a huge capability uplift for us. So that's one of the biggest things that we've done in the last 18 months. We secured funding, which we've not been super successful over the last few years. We've secured 2 key funding streams. One has been for commercial grade hāngi cookers. So we purchased some hāngi cookers from an organisation in New Zealand. We got funding through a local federal member here in the local area. We got funding through his office of nearly 10 grand. So we got those purchased, and we've got them imported now, and we're using them not as regularly as we would like to, but that's changing very soon. So we've got some uplift there, which is really good. And we got some funding through the RSL. We've got a long-standing, very close relationship with 2 of the local RSL sub-branches. So they gave us a few $1,000s to buy new performing kakahu for our hakaropu. So that's been really good. One thing that we have lacked for a number of years, and people have just jumped in and tried to do it where they can and helped, and it's been great. It's helped us chug along, but we weren't going anywhere, is we've got a dedicated haka kayako, a lead kayako that is super experienced. We happened to nab her just by virtue of her and husband and kids moved to the area. So that had just come by chance, but oh man, from where we were, so let's say 3 or 4 years ago as a performing group to where we are now, through the roof. It is phenomenal. That ties into that piece about it's a lot of work for our performers. There's weekly practices, and there's events on weekends, there's performances, and you got to do Sunday practices, all that stuff that comes along with it. It's a lot, and it's awesome. It's fantastic. We've done a lot of cultural wānanga, so we're working with some kaiako in Sydney and getting them to come up every couple of months, and we run public events and people can come and learn patu, learn taiaha, learn maurako, which has been awesome. Social media, we've found an awesome social media guru within our rōpū. Again, a new person that's come along. Our social media following has nearly doubled in the last probably 18 months. So that's another big tick. We've got new performing uniforms, we've got new equipment. The way our social media presence is set up, we've got a public page, we've got a private group for LA members, and then we created another separate private group called the Kapahaka Hub, which only our performers are in there, and it's a space for them to manage everything to do with haka. And we've got all of our education information set up in there. There's a great feature in Facebook groups called guides, and you can click on guides and go set up a guide 1, and then you have as many posts as you like under that. So we have one guide is called a waiata. The waiata name, there'll be the words, there'll be the music, there'll be the voice recording of it, then there'll be the video recording of it with the actions. So if you can't make it to practice, you can still go on the hub, click on all that stuff and practice at home. We haven't had that before, and that's been a game changer for everyone in our group. Everyone in our performing group, they've now got a really concise resource to work on at home. We've done a heap of performances. We've done community performances. We've done weddings. We've done commercial performances, which is awesome. We get paid as a group for some of those performances, and it gives an opportunity for people that have been practicing their haka for a long time, an opportunity to get up on stage and actually show to the world all the awesome stuff that they've been learning. We've had lots of new faces come through our doors, and I think the retention piece there, it ties into all of these other things that I'm talking about in terms of our capability uplift. It's meaning people are coming and people are staying. We've got more eyeballs on us. More eyeballs means more people through the doors. We've got good programs set up now. We've got good governance set up now. People are staying as well. So that's really, really good as well. New product revenue. I don't want to go too much into this because it's a bit of a trade secret for our group and something that no other Maori group is doing. So related to hāngi. So we've got some new revenue there that's coming in the door, which is really good. And the last one we spoke about at the AGM was tangi attendance. We had 2 kaumātua pass away in the last 12 months, and we just had such a strong representation as a club. And I was really, really proud at those occasions just to see the willingness and commitment for people in our group to come along. A lot of the people in our group didn't know these people that had passed away, but they still came, they still shared in that experience, they still shared in that mamae, and that was beautiful to see. And for the 𝐻ānau-a-Apanui, oh man, just so much gratitude to our group for coming along and supporting them in that time. So that's been a really, really positive note for us, and yeah, I'm really proud of that. So that's what we've been doing in the last 12 months. Where to next? So we've got a full, one of the things we've struggled with in the last 12 months is we haven't had a full committee. We've had people jump in, say they can help, and then they've fallen away. It's been a real challenge. It's a challenge because we've committed to doing things, and those things require someone to be in the role. So it's meant, and we've purposely done this, is because it's happened in the past, people have fallen away, and the workload has sat on the remaining people's shoulders, and then they've got burnt out from doing it. So I've put my foot down and said, no, if the person's not in the role to do the activities, to do the things, we're not going to do them. We're not going to push that burden onto other people. We're just going to say, no, we don't have the people. We can't do that at this stage. That's been a challenge in the last 12 months. We've now got a full committee on board. The only person we're looking for at the moment is someone to run our social subcommittee. We've got our welfare and cultural subcommittees firing. We've got some really great people on board now. We haven't had a secretary for a long time, and we've got a new lady, Melly, on board as a secretary, and I am super excited to work with her. She has just stepped down as the CEO of her own registered charity that she started and grew and did all this international work over in Bali. It's a big organization, so I'm super excited to see her come into the fold and bring all of that experience and be able to help us and help me in the leadership and the presidential role, because the president role, she's done that in her previous organization. So I'm really keen to work closely with her and work out what we can do to keep growing our organization. The other really positive thing that I'm super excited about is the welfare space. Now, over the years, we have had a number of queries come in from organisations with kids in care, Maori kids in care, in foster care in the local area, and they're saying, hey, you're a Maori group, we have a Maori kid, we don't really know what to do, we need to write a cultural plan for them or something similar, can you please help us? We've dealt with those requests in an ad hoc manner. We've now got a welfare subcommittee set up where we are formalising that process. We've got a guy sitting in that role who has been in the child protection, child welfare, the social space for over 10 years, like super experienced practitioner, works with young kids. He is now leading that. Like this, and he is Maori and he is super passionate about his culture. He works in the industry, and now he's going to be doing this volunteer role through our organisation, reaching out to organisations, probably including his, including some of his competitors, no doubt, and being the lead as our organisation, reaching out to those stakeholders and saying, hey, we're now setting up our own systems so we can help those kids in a more formal manner. We've been setting this up in a way that we're not going to overly expose ourselves to too much unnecessary and uninsured risk, and so we're really clear on what we are doing, and we're even more clear on what we're not doing. For him to lead that is awesome. Behind that, we've got a working group set up. Look, we've got him in the working group. We've got our 𝐀𝐁𝐎𝐧𝐠 in the working group. We've got another one of our members who is a registered child psychologist in that group. We've got another lady that runs her own, a little bit separate, but runs her own support, NDIS support company. So she's got a lot of relevant industry experience. And so between the outreach that he's doing and the working group that we've got set up, I mean, we are in such a strong position to help these organizations, help these kids. I spoke to one of them recently, and she said, or it might have been Ben, I was talking about outside of Aotearoa, there's not the same level of cultural lens for Māori here in Australia as there is in Aotearoa, and comparatively it's not the same as Aboriginal children. So it's a huge gap for Māori kids that are in care, our tamariki. It's so sad. Kids in care is through no fault of their own, that they end up in these circumstances. And so for us to be able to support in that area, it is the number one thing that I'm excited about in the next financial year. For everything that we're doing, that is number one, because there is a huge demand. And what comes of that, I'm not quite sure. We're sort of spitballing some ideas at the moment of what growth in that space looks like. But yeah, we got the right people. And that's the starting point that we need. So. And then outside of that, our hakaropu is going to continue to grow. We've got more performances lined up. We've got more RSL sub-branches asking us for Anzac Day next year, can you come and perform at ours? Because we've now reached out to, I think, 4 separate sub-branches that we performed at this Anzac Day, which is a real stretch for our people, because all the performances are at the same time and they're all in different regions and areas. So that's going to be another challenge that we've got to deal with, but that's all part of growth. And so yeah, circling back to my role, my focus is on sustainable growth through our governance, through our organisation, and our people. So I hope you learnt something from that. If you hung around now for 40 minutes, I appreciate you listening in. I will definitely make some more videos on this topic, because I think it's something that as our group grows, there's stuff that people will be able to learn something from, and I hope there's takeaways for other people that are out there in similar organisations, in similar volunteer groups. So look, if you think you can contribute, or you want to know more about the group, or you want to get involved, if you live around this area in Newcastle or the Hunter, check us out on Facebook, Te Ūkaipō, Newcastle Māori Club. We'd love to get in touch. We'd love to meet you. And yeah, if you think there's any other way that we could connect, and if if you're from another beneficial organization, you think there might be some synergies in what we do, man, I'd love to hear from you. So please just shoot me a message. That's it. Kia ora.